hours. That's had to be the most refreshing thing in this whole process so far. I thought it was interesting in that not only did they take all the clips, or the main ones, that they put together in their presentation, but then they put the rest of it side by side with it, which showed a completely different, point of view. The other thing I thought was interesting, they ended up at the tail end, and actually, Adam Schiff, has been involved in this from its beginning. Back, even when we were talking about the Mueller report that fell flat, and had some interesting snippets of where contradictions. I'm not going to say anything other than contradictions. You can extend it from there on his involvement with the whistleblower, and then also on his statements regarding circumstantial versus direct evidence back on the collusion issue. So I think they are clearly going to make the case that the main protagonist, Adam Schiff, has to be looked at in terms of trying to evoke Lincoln, talking about, the fact that Trump is an imminent threat, that he needs to be removed. I think his credibility is going to start to tank through this whole process. So, any questions?
Have you spoken to any of your colleagues, some of maybe the ones that are considered swing votes, on where they stand on witnesses and testimony?
No, I didn't. But I think now that we're into the first part of the counterpoint and making the case from the president's point of view, I wouldn't imagine how there would be anything but a refreshing feel for how it's going to be litigated, number one, and the fact that we've had 23 hours of hearing nothing but snippets and one point of view. In this 2 hours, I think they made more headway than the entirety of what they laid on us with mountains of information, minutia, and just not getting to the point.
So, have you taken an official stance on if you want to hear new evidence or testimony?
Through this whole process, I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to listen to anything, but I think that we've really got a good feel for how they're going to litigate the president's defense, and I think it's going to be done in a much better way so that we can discern the basic information. Yeah. Go ahead, Joey.
Absolutely. Thank you. I thought today was an incredible 2 hours, and within 2 hours, I thought that the White House counsel and their team entirely shredded the case that has been presented by the House managers. So what we heard today was very concise. It was full of truths and facts as presented from the House managers' own witnesses. It was not filled with half-truths and personal stories about being a soldier or chief of police and wonderful appeals to the audience, but nothing relevant to the case. What we saw today was factual, relevant to what is going on in the Senate, and it points out that there have been a lot of half-truths promulgated by the House managers and absolutely pushed by the media as well. So what we're looking for, facts.
I think this was a good day for America, frankly. I say that because I think what the average person in our country really wants is fairness. They are not looking for part of the facts, part of the information, part of the testimony. I think today we had a better chance to see illumination on the entire process. And for me, I'm still sitting back and watching and processing, but it was a very good day for the country. Said differently, most Americans are in desperate search of a fair process. Whether you like the president or whether you dislike the president, when you're talking about something as consequential as impeachment, you don't want your emotions to lead you. You want to be led by evidence, by facts, by information, but you want the whole story. And so today we had an opportunity to hear more of the story, and I suspect that on Monday we'll see the process laid out even more comprehensively. And in the end, I think the average person in our country will feel better about its government when in fact the government provides all the information, not simply the information that supports the conclusion that was drawn before the process even started. That, in fact, is a sad part of today. That, in fact, what we learned today, that people were literally in search of guilt, not the premise of innocence.
Today, we heard a presentation that was strong and that was clear and that completely undermined the case of the Democrats and truly undermined the credibility of Adam Schiff. And I think the most effective thing that happened was when they first read, this is the President's Counsel, first read the transcript of the phone call with the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine, and then played the video of Adam Schiff with his fictionalized, made-up script. And from where I was sitting, I know the press couldn't see his face, but the blood drained from Adam Schiff's face as they played that video and his made-up words. The House case has been one that has been selective use of information, misuse of information, and what we saw today in just 2 short hours is what the House left out in 21 hours, all in the effort to undermine and impeach and remove this president and to undermine the election of 2020.
Yeah. So I grew up as a big fan of Paul Harvey and listening to Paul Harvey all the time, and to go through his story and to be able to hear at the tail end of everyone, and now you know the rest of the story. It was pretty stark today. I've mentioned to several folks over the last several days, Proverbs 18:17, that says in a lawsuit, the first to plead their case seems right until they're cross-examined. And today was the first day the facts have actually been allowed to be cross-examined and to be able to set up all of these different motivations that the House team has set up and said, this is what actually happened, but this is the motivation behind it. My 2 big frustrations have always been, they're trying to say, I know this is what President Zelensky said, but this is what we read his mind, what he actually meant. It's demeaning in a foreign policy situation, but it's also not something that's going to hold up in any court. And the number of times that I knew that the House was making a statement but leaving out the context on it. It happened over and over again for 3 days where they would cherry pick one part of a sentence and then would not read the full part of the sentence. Today we got a chance to see the whole sentence and to say, let's see it in context and actually what was said. Like, for instance, over and over again, the statement of President Zelensky always wanted a White House meeting, a White House meeting, a White House meeting. But then it was President Zelensky himself early in the process that said, or we could meet in Poland on September the 1st. That would be fine. Well, that's been conveniently left out by the House managers the whole time. And then that meeting was set up long before there was any investigations, before any whistleblowers, anything else. That meeting was already in process. So there's just a lot of parts of their case that they've made their case based on innuendo and speculation and secret motivations or presumptions. Today, the facts are starting to actually come out and say, let's not make presumptions. Let's actually see what the facts are. And I look forward to getting a chance to hear more of those facts on Monday and Tuesday in the days ahead.
Senator Barrasso, what is the conference strategy for questions and how will that be organized?
You know, we're going to have 16 hours of questions. We will meet as a conference to decide what questions we want to pose, what the order may be of those questions. It seems like the Chief Justice is going to go back and forth, one Republican question, one Democrat question, and some may be to just bring out more information from the Republicans, from the White House counsel, and some may be specifically to go after what the House has provided.
So will you be collecting questions beforehand, or will members have the opportunity to ask
We'll be
questions?
conferring over there. We'll be meeting again before we go in on session on Monday. We'll talk about it then. We'll talk about it Tuesday, and probably not going to get to questions until Wednesday.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.